Hey there, and welcome to Have Fun, Be Nice, Do Good Work. I'm Katie, and today I'm bringing you a traditional knitting podcast, episode number 2. Getting started with finished objects, I have one finished object for you, and it is that which I am wearing right now. This is my Owls sweater by Kate Davies, and the yarn is Lion Brand Scarfy in the colors Truffle and Wine. It's one yarn, but in 2 colors. I am in love with this sweater. I love it so much. This is my first long sleeve sweater that I've made. It feels like sort of a benchmark in my knitting journey, so I am proud of it just for that. But it also just feels special for other reasons. This yarn was a gift from my wonderful sister-in-law for Christmas, and so that makes it a little bit special. This sweater is a bottom-up construction, so you start at the hem of the sweater, do the body, and then you put that on hold, do one sleeve, put that on hold, do the other sleeve, and then you combine them all together and do the yoke in the round. It's all done in the round. I really enjoyed the construction. I have heard many people say they don't enjoy bottom-up constructions, and I can understand why, because the fit of the yoke is so important. But what I really enjoyed about this process was that the mindless part of it was at the beginning. And so it took no motivation for me to get to the second sleeve, right? Because I was like, yes, I'm almost to the fun part. I'm almost to the cables. I'm almost to the yoke. So I really enjoyed that process. And the fit turned out well for me, I think. I still just tried it on. I hoped it would work out, and it did work out. I'm pretty pleased with how it fits. I do really like the neckline of it. It ended up just slightly wide, which I've seen that on many other people's sweaters as well, and I like that. I don't love the way I look in a close cut crew neck. I almost said crew cut. I don't think I would like how I looked in a crew cut either. I did opt to put buttons on just one owl. These buttons came from House of Yarn in Nashville, Tennessee, and I decided to just do the one. Now, my siblings and I, we always called our dad the Great Owl. And he passed away a little over a year ago now, and so I decided to just put buttons on the one owl that was over my heart. So this is my dad owl. I loved doing the cables. This was my first time doing cables. And I did them without a cable needle. I don't know if that is weird or not, but I had seen that you could do that, and I thought, it's going to be hard to do the cables anyway. Why don't I just go ahead and do it without the cable needle and see if I can swing it? And I found it pretty easy. Now, these are pretty simple cables. I mean, they were challenging for me because I'm new, but in the world of cables, I know these are quite simple, so maybe at some point I will need a cable needle in the future. But I felt pretty proud that I was able to do it without the cable needle, and they turned out, I think they came out nice and even and recognizable as an owl. I taught a little violin student this morning, and she got completely distracted and was like, "Is that an owl on your sweater?" Yes, you can tell. You can tell it's an owl. One thing to tell you about this yarn, I thought that the color changes would be more gradual, but it is pretty chunky. It is pretty much like, here is a brown stretch and here is a red stretch, and there's just a little bit of sort of melting between the two. And you can see from the striping on the top that it's not the same amount every time, right? There's like a little stripe of the red here, and as I was finishing the body, I started to worry that my initial plan was to start each sleeve from a different ball of yarn, hoping that they would end up the same shades, the same color changes. But as I was knitting, I found that the yarn was pretty inconsistent in when it changed colors, and so I couldn't really anticipate it. So I just went with it. I just did one sleeve and then I started the next sleeve where the first sleeve finished in the yarn ball. And I'll tell you what, they are, look at that. They're almost perfectly matched in the color changes. I am so pleased. And I really like the way it looks too with the sort of broader stripes. We'll call them stripes. They're not really stripes, but the broader blocks of colors on the sleeves and then the smaller stripes on the body. Really happy with that. This yarn is pretty nice. It's very light, very lightweight, which feels weird. It feels weird to me to be wearing a warm item that also feels like I'm not wearing anything. I don't know if that's good or bad. It just is. But it is very cozy. What else? Anything else I have to tell you about this? I've already worn the sweater quite a few times, and I don't know if it's pilling, but it is just a little bit fuzzy. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's just like a little bit, yeah. But I don't really mind it. I don't think you can see it from a distance, and it is, you know, quite an expensive yarn. I think, if I remember well, it's 40% wool and 60% acrylic. Those numbers might be swapped. I'll tell you the truth on the screen. Yeah, overall, very excited about this sweater. Really happy with it. Really glad I tried the bottom up construction because I felt apprehensive about it, but just decided to go for it. As my niece would have said when she was 4 years old, try it. You might like it. Moving on to whips. In my Finish It February goals, I had quite a few things. Let's start with an easy one. I frogged. Oh no, everybody. What's happening here? I frogged my Devon Poof footstool. Poof! This is Bernat blanket yarn. And so I have all of this ready to go. This is like a third of a ball. This takes up so much space in my yarn storage that I am motivated to make something with this quickly. I have two ideas for this yarn, what I want to use it for. They're a similar idea. They're both sort of cocoon cardigans. And this would be like an around the house, slouchy, cozy, almost like a blanket, but with sleeves. The first option is the Embarker Cocoon Cardigan by Ashley Lillis. And this is a knitted design. The other option, let me look it up. Okay, I cannot for the life of me find the second pattern. I know it exists somewhere, but future me and my illustrious editor will put it on the screen. This is a crochet pattern, and I just think it's really beautiful. And I can't decide which one I want to do. I can't decide. This yarn, the reason that I ended up not liking it for the Devon Poof, which was a crochet project, is because it didn't have a lot of stitch definition. And so my fear is that for the crochet sweater, it might also not have great stitch definition. That might really detract from the pattern. And so maybe it's better to do on the knitted one. Put in a vote for me. Let me know. I just need somebody to give me an opinion for me to make up my mind of which one I want to do. Because I would like to do this soon just so that this yarn, which in real life is like this much yarn, is not taking up the whole of my yarn storage. Okay, so that's an easy one. Next up is the Wood Stove Pullover by Kirsten Hipsky. I did not finish it in February, but man, I got pretty far. I'm pretty impressed with myself, if I do say so. I have a top here. I should say I have a front. A front. It looks like this. And I have a back. Which looks like this. Now you can tell in the pieces I'm showing you that this is knit in pieces and then seamed together, and then you add a collar at the end. I am using Cascade Elysium. I think it's called Elysium yarn, And I love it. It's nice and stretchy. It's so squishy. I really like it. And I think my husband will like it too. He likes it so far. He hasn't tried it on, obviously. I do have a couple of things to say. What do I have to say about this? It's very boring. It's a really boring pattern because it's just one thing over and over and over. So that's not super exciting. But the finished product, I really love the look of it, and it looks like something my husband will wear. So that's exciting. The pattern calls for, when you're doing the neck shaping, it calls for like bind off 6 and then bind off 6 more and then bind off the middle ones. But what I did was some short row shaping instead. So I did short rows. I basically followed their bind off pattern but with short rows instead, so that it's a straight seam, but just slightly curved, which I felt pretty proud of because I did take a class on short rows. And I felt really proud of myself that I was able to do that. I've never done short rows like that before. So I felt good about that. I did the same thing on the front, although it's a little harder to see because there's not as much real estate for that. This all got a little loose, huh? That's okay. We're going to put a collar in there. So I have about a third of a sleeve done as well. And yeah, then I will make the other sleeve and stitch it all together. So hopefully I can finish it in the next week or so. This one. Next on my finish it February list was my MAC blanket. This is a blanket using leftover yarn from some projects that I made for my girlfriends. And I knew that it was an ambitious goal to try and finish the blanket, but my base goal was just to finish all of the granny squares. This is a willow square blanket, and I did finish all the squares. There they are, my babies. It actually goes this way because this is the order they go in. These squares, okay, so I had planned to do 28, so to do a 4x7 blanket, and I finished that and realized I had enough for one more of each color. So then I decided to do 32. But the only way to divide that up was 4x8, which was now very long and narrow for a blanket. So I decided to squeeze out 3 more, and I made it 35. So it'll be 5x7, which I like much more for a blanket. And I decided just to do 1 fewer of the green. The green is my color, so it felt like I'm not dissing anybody by doing that. And the pattern that I'm going to use to combine the squares is sort of a serpentine root. These colors each represent one of my friends, and we are Mac, Monica, Autumn, Claire, Katie, and it is very important to the left brain side of me that they stay in that order. So it's going to go left to right, M-A-C-K-M, and then down, A-C-K-M, A-C-K-M, like that. I tried doing it across like typewriter, all left to right, and it ended up being very, very horizontal stripe. I'll toss in a couple pictures of me just playing around with them on the table. So that is the goal, is to then combine them with a nice like ivory color. And I am planning to join them using this granny stitch join, and then I would like to do a border, this leaf border. I'm going to wait and see how it looks with the granny stitch and see if the leaf is too much, but I think it would be really beautiful. Now, I do have a couple of things to say about these squares. One is that the colors, these are all the same yarn. These are all Aviza. I can never remember the name of this yarn. These are all Elise Diva. And they each each color came out a different size. So the yellow is probably the smallest, followed by the orange. No, maybe the orange is the smallest, but these both are kind of on the smaller side. And then the green is a bit bigger, and then the blue is just like enormous in comparison. So I'll show these, no, these two side by side. If I line them up in the corner, you can see how much bigger that blue one is than the red. I'm hopeful that this will all come out in the wash, but we'll see. Actually, I do think that the granny stitch join will be more forgiving because it doesn't go into every single stitch, so I can zhuzh it a little bit more. Now, one really important thing about these squares is that, do I have the language skills to describe this? Okay, you know when you're making a corner and let's say you have 2 single crochets, chain 2, 2 single crochets. Well, within the chain 2, within the chain 2, the first crochet after that, the actual stitch is sort of in the chain. Do you know what I'm saying? And this pattern didn't really specify whether or not to use that stitch. And so this was a good learning moment for me. I initially did use that stitch, and I'll show you what that ended up looking like. Here's a good example. It ended up looking like this. So every time I had the opportunity to use that stitch, I did. And you can see that it's like extra pointy. And because I did that, there are like several corners in a row here. Because I used it on each corner, this square is decidedly bigger and pointier than these others of the same color. This looks like what I think they should look like. And this looks a little bit alien. There are probably 6 that are like that. And this one, let me show you this one just for fun. This must have been early in the process. I did start making these in February, I think, of last year. And I've gotten a lot better since then. So there's a range of tensions here. But this one, so if you recall, the blue ones are already the biggest. And then look how big this one is in comparison to a regular blue one. It's just enormous. And then compared to that first orange one, red one, are you kidding? It's huge. So it's going to be an adventure. If you have any advice on the best layout for that, I'm trying to think, like, do I spread the chonky ones out? Or do I put them all sort of in the same row so that they're the same height? I might Google that. But if you have any advice, I would love to know. I don't want to go back and redo them because I do think that's part of the charm of it, is that I love that this represents March 2023, March 2024 Katie, and this represents February 2025 Katie. It's fine with me that they're not the same, but I would like to make the blanket somewhat usable in the end. That is my willow blanket. This is a free pattern from Designs by Vanessa. Next on my whip pile is my practice blanket February square. If you have not seen my previous video where I talked about this, I'll just give a quick elevator speech about it. This is the sort of the same idea as a temperature blanket, except instead of the temperature, it tracks how many minutes I practice singing every day. If I don't practice at all, I get a gray. If I have a performance, I get blue, and then practices are all in shades of pink. And then there's just a white border. So I did finish it. I didn't finish all the ends, but many of the ends are woven in. Not all of them. But here it is. Oh, and I just love it. Throughout this whole process, I've been like, should I do this? Is this lame? Like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. And as I was doing this one, I really got excited. And part of it is just on days where you don't feel like practicing, knowing that I'll get a pink instead of a gray is enough sometimes to just get me started. And once you get started, then you really get some work done. But also I think it's fun in this one, you can see I have a row of 5 blues here because I had a tour where I did 5 performances. And you can see that there was some practice that happened leading up into that. And I think that that is valuable both as a motivator, but also as a point of reflection at the end of the year to just look and see this month I'm going on tour again, so I'll have another 12 blues, which is pretty fun. And so I think it'll be cool to be able to see that. So that's like kind of like a finished object because February is finished, but I still have 11 months left to do it. I do think in finish of February, I was trying to decide if I should make this February to February or use my old square as the first one. I think I'm going to do February to February because it actually feels kind of like a good cycle of our year anyway. I should say it feels like a good cycle of our work flow in the year. This is a design by, this is a pattern by TL Yarn Crafts. And she's got a wonderful video to show you how to do it and a blog with the design, with the pattern. How do you call it? With the pattern on it. So 11 more to go. I should practice today too. Whew. Next up is my tour blanket. This is, you know, a never-ending whip. Let me just iron it out a little bit here. It goes this way. Here it is so far. And I have 3 more squares to go on it. And they go, I think, in this order. Like that. I think that's right. So on my last trip, I added 5 new squares. This is from Illinois, from O'Fallon, Illinois. This one is from, wow, this is a good test. Do I remember? Chattanooga, Johnson City, Knoxville, Nashville. I love this one too. It's so nice. It's really lovely. And this one too, they're really beautiful. I did talk about all of these in my travel vlog, my knitting vlog, where I went to each store. So if you're interested to know more about the stores or the yarns themselves, you can check that one out. This one's going on the road with me again, and I have many, many yarn stores picked out for my next trip, which is next week. So the never ending, just need to attach these guys. I don't have too much to report on this, except that the first round, let me orient it again. The first round, which is all of these, was a good learning process. And then the next round, those 2 plus these 3, was an even better learning process. And I have a much better idea now of like, I just have to use sock yarn. I just have to. Because this one is like the same weight, but is 100% wool. It's like 100% Icelandic wool, and you can see it's definitely chonkier than the rest. And my plan is to, after the next trip, once I attach them, I'll block as I go so that hopefully I can iron out some of these unevennesses, but you can see these 3 are like really the same size. And it's because I was like, no substitutes, only sock yarn. So that's good to know. So hopefully it will be quite even moving forward. I'm still really pleased with it. I just love looking at it and remembering all the places that I've been with my job. Thank you, job. I have one more whip to show you, and it's just nothing to show you yet, but I have to show you because I am so excited about it. I just can't untangle it. Here we go. This is my foundation chain, foundation single crochet chain. How do you call it? I think that's what it's called. This is my first row, my chain and first row for my Aviva dress. This is my birthday cast on. Today is my birthday, and I started this dress. This is using Hobby Rainbow 84 in the colorway. It's just a number. Don't get excited. Don't get excited. I can never find it. 47. But I like to call this color Desert Rose. Doesn't it sort of seem like a desert rose? Maybe. And we have to talk about something really important with this yarn, which I discovered today when I started this project. Right here, you see this little guy sticking out? This says Easy Start. It says Easy Start on it. Do you know why? Because it's the center pull. Now, you might have already known that, but I didn't know that, and that's amazing. Do you know how often I'm just like sticking my whole arm in there to try and find the center pull? I know that you can also knit from the outside or crochet from the outside, but I am often traveling while I'm doing this. I also live in a house full of dog fur, and so it really behooves me to go from the inside. And this business, yes. Hobby, thank you. I love you. Okay, moving on to acquisitions. Let me go check the front door and see if I have one to show you. No yarn. You just have to wait for next time. I ordered some yarn. It was supposed to come a couple days ago, but it didn't. And then I got a notification that it was out for delivery today, so I guess the universe was like, you need it on your birthday. But not yet on my birthday. So you'll have to tune in next month for the podcast, and I'll show you my Buffy yarn that I ordered. I did, however, get a lovely knitting pattern book. This is Romantic Knits by Helene Arneson, Fable Knitwear. And it's really nice. I got this in part just because I had a gift card to Barnes & Noble and I didn't know what else to use it on, so I got it. I got this. There are quite a few things in here that I would probably never wear just because they're not tailored to my style, but there are some that I really love, and this one is the Nutcracker Vest is the one I think I would start with. That might be a really fun fall knit to do. It's just so cute, and I can actually see myself wearing it. This book, it's a really beautiful book. It's sort of like it's sort of split between, I would say it's like 25% 40s shapes, and then what did I say? 40%? 25%? I can't remember. It's like 20 to 30% 40s shapes, and then 70 to 80% like very fairy tale drapey cool things. Let me show you an example of that. Stand by, please. Yeah, the Lucrezia blouse. That's a good example of just like very, very flowy. I haven't read all of the patterns, but it does look like there's a lot of mohair in this one. But they're really beautiful. I'm excited to make a pattern out of here. I've never made a pattern out of a book, so I can cross that off of my fiber art skills for 2025. One last acquisition. My brother and sister-in-law and their children sent me this beautiful yarn bowl. Isn't that lovely? It's speckly inside. So nice. I suspect my sister-in-law had something to do with this because she is one of the best gift givers in the world. Oh my God, it's the mailman. I don't think he has any yarn though. got so excited. But I really love it. And it even using the center pull, it's really helpful because the yarn just stays put. And it makes me feel fancy. So thank you to my brother and sister-in-law and the children as well. Does anybody else ever feel like they just make a huge mess when they're doing these podcasts and then you have to clean it up? Cool. I'm just gonna check. I'm just gonna just check real quick. Yay! Oh, it worked. I checked and he did bring it. Oh, that was very exciting. Just in time. Hulk smash! Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. This is Fireweed Fiber Co. If the Apocalypse Comes, Beep Me. From their Buffy the Vampire Slayer yarn club back in 2023. This was the last one, and I was really excited. And then you know what they did? They restocked the entire thing. I'm guessing because maybe they just announced this Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot. So it makes sense that they would do another set of stock for it, but I toiled over whether or not I should buy this exact skein of yarn for several weeks because I'm on not a no buy, but I have some purchasing rules for myself, and this definitely broke the rules. But I was like, there's only one left, and it's not like it's coming back. So I bought it, and then I checked 2 days later, and it's fully stocked, which means I could have gotten a whole sweater quantity of one of those yarns. But I am terribly pleased with just this one, and I've been trying to find something really special to make with it. It's really, I love it. Just look. Well, I'm glad that timing worked out so perfectly. Thank you so much for joining, and please do like and subscribe. I would love to see you around here more often. Shoot me a comment down below and let me know what you're working on for spring, or whatever season it is, wherever and whenever you are right now. Until next time, have fun, be nice, and do good work.